Hi guys, what are we going to do today? Actually, I'm going to show off one of my new IOD molds, and this is Jingle, to do a fun Christmas project. Let's get started.
So what I'm going to use is I'm using my Jingle mold, my new IOD mold, and I want to do this deer head and the bow. You can do them out of clay, but I noticed these were very, very small and tiny, and I really find that using the Quick Cure Amazing Casting Resin really does make a difference. So all you do is mix it 50-50. And I'm probably pouring a little more than I'm gonna need just for that, so I'll fill a few other cavities also with the excess. And it's nice is that when they do cure, they are nice and sturdy. You don't need to move super fast, but you do kind of want to move a little quick. The other problem people can have with this is if you do not mix it very well, you will notice certain pieces that will cure really nicely, and other pieces seem to stay very gummy, and they don't seem to want to cure, and that's because it was not mixed really well. And you can see how much clearer it gets when it is mixed. It's very cloudy when it's not. And you can actually feel it getting warm in the cup, and it does that fairly quickly. And I noticed that when I do this, it's going to start filling into the cavity, and you can see it going down into the antlers. And if you get a little excess, you can always cut some of that off. So you can see I over poured this. It's not completely dry, but I noticed if I'm really careful while it's still curing, instead of having to cut it later, it goes to where the rims are, because we do have that wonderful little ridge there. And look at that. And I can pull that out now, and I don't have to cut it later. And it takes probably about 5 minutes. So it doesn't take long. Sometimes pieces will get done much quicker. It just really depends. So you're going to tell, though, because it gets very white. And when it's completely cured, we're gonna pop it out. So this is set about 5 minutes. Get him to come out. Ooh, look at how nicely he came out. Now any of these little teeny excess pieces, you can just trim off or use an X-Acto to get off. So do the same process with your bow also. So you're gonna have 2 resin pieces. I am going to glue him on this. I had a few of these in my shop, but really you could take any little board and you could even put a hanger on it and not do the sides. But if you wanted to do the sides, get some tiny hinges, and it had just 2 other little boards to the sides. This just happens to come this way. Now I am going to glue this on here. Now if you want this to bend a little more, you're going to heat it up with your heat gun, and then you can get it to bend a little more before you glue it on here. There's a lot of different glues you can use, and usually I use my Type Bond Quick and Thick. This time I'm just going to use this Mag-Attack. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my heat gun, and I'm going to heat this up a little so I can bend it a little easier, and then I am going to glue that on here. And I'm putting this right under his chin. Oh, I bent this around because after you heat it, it does get pliable again. So I'm going to glue this down. So I'm going to let this attach to there, and then we are going to paint the whole thing an off-white. Okay, so I'm just going to use some of my off-white, and this is actually my DIY crinoline color, but you guys can use whatever colors you would like to use. And I am just going to paint the whole thing. And I don't care if it's not completely covered. It's just another white I'm just gonna mix in here a little bit while it's still wet. And this one's just vintage linen. So we're just gonna let this dry now, and when this is dry, I'm gonna go over the bow in red. So this is dry. I am just going to put a coat of sealer on it, and this is my Minwax polyacrylic crystal clear. So we're gonna let this dry and then we're gonna put another coat of paint on it to distress it. So this is dry. I am gonna water down a little bit of this letterpress gray and just go over this whole piece. And this is my DIY paint, and this is the one time I really like using it because it wipes back so nicely when I put it on very top. Okay, so we're just gonna let this dry and then we're gonna wipe it back. So I'm just using a wet cloth and I'm lightly just going to rub back. And most of it's pretty dry, and I am just using water on this and wiping back some of the gray. And you can use a baby wipe. I just happen to be out of baby wipes, so I am just using a cloth with water. And this does work pretty well. And then in these tiny little areas, I'm using a back of a brush and I'm just getting in here. And it works pretty well to get a few more of the little spots out of these thin crevices here. So just keep wiping this back, and you're gonna have to clean your cloth or use a new baby wipe until you get the look you would like. So now I'm gonna add a little bit of a gold wax over all of this and wipe some of it back, but put some on here. Not a lot, just enough that it gives it a little bit of a shimmer. Okay, last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little brown paint to this now. So this is just very, very watered down brown paint. And you can see it's kind of wanting to resist a little bit where the wax is, but I don't mind that. It'll work out when we're done here. So if you get a little more than you want, you can still wipe it all back. See how that just comes off very nicely anywhere you don't want it. Because you put your sealer on it, that's what gives you the ability to do that. So you're just gonna get whatever look it is that you really want, however dark or bright or whatever you would like on your piece. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry. Now I'm actually gonna add, now that this is dry, I'm gonna add just a little bit of antiquing to this. Then we're gonna let this dry and I'm gonna seal it and then we'll be done almost. So I'm using my polyacrylic crystal clear Minwax, the same thing we were using earlier. And I am just sealing this one last time. And when we're done with this, we are gonna work on our banner. This is dry, and what I wanted was a banner across the top. What I did is I took from my Merry and Bright IOD stamp from Christmas 2021, I'm using the Merry and the Christmas. And I just stamped it on to some fun paper I already had. I just rubbed a little bit of red ink on there. You could just find a cute little Merry Christmas banner or whatever you would like it to say. I'm putting my Distress Oxide, and this is vintage photo color on here. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is just seal it really quickly. And it will move around some of this distressing. And I am just gonna bend it up a little. I want it to be a little wavy. I can move it a little, but I'm just gonna let it kind of set like this for a minute while the poly is drying on it. And this dries really quickly on paper. So when I set this up, put a tad bit of glue there and just have this at the very, very top. And use whatever glue you would like to use. I'm just using this Beacon 3-in-1. Set there. Just hold it for a moment. Then we'll stand it up and we're done.
So I hope you guys thought this was fun and it gives you a few ideas. I do really like this reindeer, and I think there's some other projects we're gonna use him for, but I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Try this out, but whatever you do, have fun.